The 2018-19 Southwest Indian Ocean cyclone season is an ongoing and above-average event of the annual cycle of tropical cyclone and subtropical cyclone formation. It officially began on November 15, 2018, and will end on April 30, 2019, with the exception for Mauritius and the Seychelles, for which it will end on May 15, 2019. These dates conventionally delimit the period of each year when most tropical and subtropical cyclones form in the basin, which is west of 90 degrees east and south of the equator. Tropical and subtropical cyclones in this basin are monitored by the Regional Specialized Meteorological Center in Réunion. The first tropical cyclone was a moderate tropical storm that did not receive a name, formed northeast Madagascar on September 13, 2018, 2 months before the official start of the season. Two cyclones formed in the month of November, with intense tropical cyclone Alcide forming on November 5 and severe tropical storm Bushra. Two tropical cyclones formed in the month of December, Gilina and Kenanga. Intense tropical cyclone Kenanga crossed into the basin from the Australian region, retaining its name assigned by TCWC Jakarta. Two moderate tropical storms formed in the month of January 2019, Desmond and Equator. In the month of February, two simultaneous tropical cyclones, Funani and Gilina, formed. The season saw 7 intense tropical cyclones, the most since the start of reliable satellite coverage in 1967. The season officially began on November 15, 2018, and will end on April 30, 2019, with the exception for Mauritius and the Seychelles, for which it will end on May 15, 2019. On September 13, a tropical depression formed to the southwest of Diego Garcia. The system tracked west-southwestward, organizing slowly over marginally warm waters of 26 to 27 degrees Celsius and moderate wind shear. On September 16, the tropical depression began to weaken after encountering unfavorable conditions. On September 17, both the MFR and the JTWC issued their final warnings, and the system dissipated. In post-storm analysis, the system was upgraded into a moderate tropical storm, although it remained unnamed. On November 6, a tropical depression formed well to the east-northeast of Madagascar. The system continued to track generally west-southwestward into more favorable conditions for the next few hours, before strengthening into moderate tropical storm Alcide later that day. On November 7 at 6 o'clock UTC, Alcide strengthened into a tropical cyclone. On November 8 at 6 o'clock UTC, Alcide strengthened into an intense tropical cyclone, with maximum 10-minute sustained winds of 90 knots, 165 km per hour, 105 miles per hour. It was downgraded to a tropical cyclone 6 hours later, however, due to cooler sea temperatures and generally less favorable conditions. Alcide continued to weaken as it began an anticyclonic loop east of the northern tip of Madagascar, falling to tropical storm status at 12 o'clock UTC on November 9. The system rapidly deteriorated thereafter, falling to tropical depression status at 0 o'clock UTC on November 11. Meteo France discontinued advisories at noon that day. A weak low-pressure system developed in the equatorial Indian Ocean in Meteo France's area of responsibility on November 1 and moved slowly eastwards over the following few days while showing little signs of intensification. Late on November 9, as the developing precursor depression to cyclonic storm Gaia in the Bay of Bengal moved further away and the competing low-level airflow convergence associated with it diminished, the system's structure organized sufficiently to be classified as a tropical disturbance by Meteo France. Very shortly afterwards, the system crossed the 90th meridian east and entered the Australian region, where it was classified by TCWC Jakarta as a tropical depression on November 10 local time. Later the same day, the JTWC assessed the developing low as having attained tropical storm status on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, and assigned the system the unofficial designation O4S. A few hours later, at 10 o'clock UTC, the system moved back westwards and returned to the southwest Indian Ocean basin, where it gained the name Boucherie from Météo France and underwent a 12-hour phase of rapid intensification to severe tropical storm status. Over the following days, Boucherie fought increasingly unfavorable atmospheric conditions, and underwent a gradual weakening trend. During this time, the cyclone proceeded to track in a slow cyclonic loop just to the west of the border of the Australian region in weak overall steering influences, and was often quasi-stationary. After meandering here for a number of days, the system re-entered the Australian region late on November 12. By this stage, the system had weakened significantly from its peak intensity, and was only at tropical depression strength. The period of residence in the Australian basin proved to be short-lived once again, however, with Météo France indicating that ex-tropical storm Boucherie had returned to the far eastern part of their area of responsibility early on November 13. In the early hours of November 14, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology noted that the system had crossed back into the Australian region basin. However, on November 17, Boucherie crossed back over into the southwest Indian Ocean basin, as the storm began taking a southwestward trajectory. On December 14, a tropical low formed well southwest of Sumatra in the Australian region basin. After a period of strengthening, it received the name Kenanga as it tracked roughly southwestward. Continuing on this course, Kenanga entered the southwest Indian basin on December 16 and subsequently strengthened into an intense tropical cyclone over the course of the next 3 days. Afterward, Kenanga dissipated on December 22. On December 16, Météo France tracked a low-pressure area inside an area of possible tropical cyclone development. While tracking southwest, it then intensified to tropical storm status and then cyclone status. On December 23, it passed east of Mauritius, bringing beneficial rainfall and gusting winds that knocked down tree branches. It then turned southeast and weakened, later dissipating in the far southern reaches of the basin. A tropical depression formed on January 17. It intensified into a moderate tropical storm and received the name Desmond. It reached peak intensity as a moderate tropical storm with 65 km/h wind and a pressure on 995 mbar. Total of 230 people were affected by Desmond, and 54 houses were destroyed by the storm. The system dissipated on January 22. A tropical depression formed on January 22. By the next day, the system had intensified into moderate tropical storm Equator, reaching peak intensity with 10-minute sustained winds of 75 km/h and a minimum central pressure of 993 mbar. The storm left 27 dead and 1 missing in Madagascar, mostly due to landslides. The system dissipated on January 24. The threat of the storm prompted officials to cancel 6 flights on Rodrigues. Gilina was the second storm to affect the island of Rodrigues in a week, following intense tropical cyclone Funani. Gilina brought strong winds that destroyed 90% of the electric grid on the island. Following the storm, the Mauritian government distributed 35 million rupees, $1.02 million, to repair the damage. On February 28, Tropical Depression 10 formed in the south-central Indian Ocean, south of the Maldives. On March 2, the system strengthened into moderate tropical storm Halle, before intensifying further into a severe tropical storm later that day. On March 3, Halle intensified into a tropical cyclone. Finding itself in favorable conditions, Halle continued to intensify and reached its peak intensity on March 4, as a Category 4 equivalent intense tropical cyclone, with 1 minute sustained winds of 215 km per hour, 130 miles per hour. On March 5, Halle meandered into hostile conditions with low sea surface ocean heat content and medium vertical wind shear, and the system weakened back to a Category 1 tropical cyclone. Halle gradually weakened over the next couple of days, eventually degenerating into a post-tropical low late on March 7. A tropical depression formed west of the coast of Mozambique on March 4. Afterward, the tropical depression drifted northeastward very slowly, making landfall on Mozambique later that day. On March 6, Tropical Depression 11 was given a yellow tropical cyclone development warning by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, JTWC. On March 7, the storm turned west-southwestward, while continuing to retain its tropical identity over land. On March 8, Tropical Depression 11 weakened and turned back towards the east. Early on March 9, the tropical depression emerged into the Mozambique Channel and began to organize. On the same day, the JTWC stated that the system had a high probability for genesis into a tropical cyclone, and later on the same day, the system strengthened into a moderate tropical storm and received the name Idai. On March 10, Idai began to rapidly intensify, strengthening into a tropical cyclone near Madagascar, and the system made yet another turn westward. Later that day, the storm intensified into the 7th intense tropical cyclone of the season. The precursor of Idai affected Malawi and Mozambique. At least 30 people died, and 377 others were injured due to flooding in Malawi. Over 230,000 people were affected. The southern districts of Chikwawa and Sanjay became isolated by floodwaters. In Mozambique, 10 people were killed by the flooding, and affected 63,000 people. For more information, MFR's Advisory on Intense Tropical Cyclone 11, Idai http://www.meteorfrance.re/cyclone/activité cyclonique en cause/de/Idai JTWC's Warning on Tropical Cyclone 18S. Idai http://www.metok.navy.mil/jtwc/products/sh1819 web. Within the Southwest Indian Ocean, tropical depressions and subtropical depressions that are judged to have 10-minute sustained wind speeds of 65 km per hour, 40 miles per hour, by the Regional Specialized Meteorological Center on La Réunion Island, France, RSMC La Réunion, are usually assigned a name. However, it is the sub-regional tropical cyclone advisory centers in Mauritius and Madagascar who name the systems. The sub-regional tropical cyclone advisory center in Mauritius names a storm should it intensify into a moderate tropical storm between 55 degrees east and 90 degrees east. If instead a cyclone intensifies into a moderate tropical storm between 30 degrees east and 55 degrees east, then the sub-regional tropical cyclone advisory center in Madagascar assigns the appropriate name to the storm. Beginning from the 2016-17 season, name lists within the Southwest Indian Ocean will be rotated on a triennial basis. Storm names are only used once, so any storm name used this year will be removed from rotation and replaced with a new name for the 2021-22 season. The unused names are expected to be reused in the list for the 2021-22 season. Kenangu entered this basin as a moderate tropical storm from the Australian region on December 16, retaining its name assigned by TCWC Jakarta. This table lists all of the tropical cyclones and subtropical cyclones that were monitored during the 2018 to 2019 Southwest Indian Ocean cyclone season. Information on their intensity, duration, name, areas affected, primarily comes from RSMC La Réunion. Death and damage reports come from either press reports or the relevant National Disaster Management Agency, while the damage totals are given in 2018 or 2019 US dollars.